You lost your game. I engineered your fall.
3 in the morning, and I'm standing in my kitchen like some kind of suburban zombie, staring at my wife's phone buzzing on the granite countertop. The text preview glows in the darkness. Last night was perfect. Next time, my place, Adrian. My name is Daniel Cooper, and I'm a 40-year-old civil engineer who just discovered his marriage is a lie. The funny thing about betrayal is how it creeps up on you. One day you're Daniel, the devoted husband, fixing leaky faucets and planning anniversary dinners, and the next you're Daniel the fool, reading love notes meant for someone else. What do you call a marriage where your wife's phone gets more action than your bedroom? Modern, I guess. Vanessa lies upstairs, probably dreaming about her photographer boyfriend while I stand here holding the smoking tool of our relationship, Adrian Brooks. I know the name from her stories, the creative genius she works with on brand campaigns. Apparently, they've been creating more than just marketing content. I take a photo of the text with my own phone, then place hers back exactly where she left it. Evidence first, emotions later. That's what 15 years of engineering teaches you. Always check your calculations before you build anything, or tear it down. The house feels different now, like I'm seeing it through new eyes. This townhouse in Portland's trendy old port district, with its exposed brick and industrial fixtures. I designed half the renovations myself. The basement workshop where I spend my evenings tinkering with projects. The rooftop patio where we used to drink wine and watch sunsets. All of it suddenly feels like a stage set for a play I didn't know I was performing in. My phone buzzes, a text from my best friend Mike. You awake? Saw your light on from the street. Mike Henderson lives 3 houses down and works at my engineering firm. He's the kind of guy who notices things, like lights on at 3 a.m. in his friend's kitchen. I text back, come over, bring coffee. We need to talk. 5 minutes later, Mike's standing in my doorway wearing sweatpants and a concerned expression. You look like heck, Dan. What's going on? I show him the photo of Vanessa's text. He reads it twice, then looks up at me with the kind of pity that makes you want to punch something. How long have you suspected? He asks, settling into one of our kitchen stools. Honestly, the signs were there for months. Late nights at the office, new clothes, that glow people get when they're having good love, just not with their spouse. I pour 2 cups of coffee from the pot that's been brewing since midnight. She's been talking about this Adrian guy constantly. How talented he is, how misunderstood, how he sees the world differently than us regular people. What are you going to do? I'm going to be smart about it. Emotional reactions are for people who don't know how to plan. I lean against the counter, feeling strangely calm. She wants excitement, drama. I'm about to give her the performance of a lifetime. Mike raises an eyebrow. That sounds ominous. Not ominous, strategic. See, Vanessa thinks she's playing chess while I'm playing checkers. She doesn't realize I've been watching her moves for months, learning her patterns. Engineers don't get mad, Mike. We get even. With precision. The next morning, I watch Vanessa get ready for work with new eyes. She's beautiful. I've always known that. 35 years old with the kind of polished perfection that comes from working in the luxury brand industry. Every hair in place, makeup flawless, outfit carefully curated to project success and desirability. You were up late last night, she says, applying lipstick in the hallway mirror. I heard you moving around downstairs. Couldn't sleep? Project deadline stress? The lie comes easily. How's your day looking? Busy. We're launching the new campaign for Meridian Watches today. Adrian's been working around the clock on the photography. She says his name with just a little too much warmth, a subtle smile playing at the corners of her mouth. Sounds intense. You two make a good team. If she hears the irony in my voice, she doesn't show it. We do. He really gets the vision, you know? Most photographers just point and click, but Adrian understands the story behind each shot. I nod and sip my coffee, playing the role of the supportive, slightly boring husband. Will you be home for dinner? Probably not. We might need to do some late-night editing to get everything perfect. Another lie. Delivered with practiced ease. After she leaves, I sit in my kitchen and make a list. Not a revenge fantasy, a project plan. Step 1. Gather information. Step 2. Secure assets. Step 3. Control the narrative. Step 4. Execute with maximum impact. I call my sister Lila, who happens to be one of Portland's most ruthless divorce attorneys. Daniel, it's 8 in the morning. This better be good. Vanessa's having an affair. I need legal advice. A pause, then, I'll be right over. Lila arrives 30 minutes later with a briefcase and the kind of predatory smile that makes opposing counsel nervous. She's 2 years younger than me, but twice as vicious when someone threatens her family. "Show me everything," she says, settling at my kitchen table like she's preparing for battle. I walk her through the evidence, the texts, the late nights, the changed behavior patterns. She takes notes in her precise handwriting, occasionally asking clarifying questions. "How are your assets structured?" she asks. "That's the interesting part. The house is in my name. I bought it before we married. Her car is financed through my credit. Most of our joint accounts require both signatures for major transactions, but I have individual access for daily operations." Lila's smile widens. "And her job? She's a social media manager for luxury brands, contracts with companies like Meridian, Blackstone Jewelry, Apex Fashion Group." I pause, remembering something important. "Actually, her firm handles the marketing for several companies that contract with my engineering firm. There might be conflict of interest issues there." Oh, this keeps getting better. What about this Adrian character? Freelance photographer, rents a studio downtown, drives a leased BMW, lives in one of those converted loft apartments that costs more than most people's mortgages. The kind of guy who thinks wearing expensive jeans makes him an artist. Sounds like someone who's about to learn the difference between playing house and paying for one. Lila closes her notebook. "Here's what we're going to do. First, document everything. Every late night, every lie, every text message. Second, I'm going to quietly start moving your assets into protected accounts. Third, we're going to let her think she's getting away with it until we're ready to drop the hammer." What about confronting her directly? "Daniel, you're an engineer. Would you demolish a building without first making sure you had somewhere else to put the rubble?" She stands up, gathering her papers. "Trust me, the best revenge isn't getting mad. It's being prepared." After Lila leaves, I drive to work with a strange sense of purpose. Cooper Engineering occupies a converted warehouse in Portland's industrial district, all exposed steel and concrete floors. It's the kind of space that prioritizes function over form, which has always suited me perfectly. Mike finds me in my office an hour later. "You look different today, more focused." "I am. I've got a project to manage." I pull up the architectural plans for Adrian's studio building on my computer. "Did you know we did the structural engineering for the renovation of this building 5 years ago?" Mike leans over my shoulder to look at the screen. "The Hartwell building? Yeah, that was a nice job. Why do you—" Oh. Understanding dawns on his face. "That's where Loverboy works?" Small world, isn't it? And here's the really interesting part. My firm still handles maintenance contracts for the building management company, which means I have access to all sorts of useful information about lease agreements, building codes, safety inspections. Dan, please tell me you're not planning to do anything illegal. Illegal? Mike, I'm hurt. I'm simply going to ensure that all city regulations are being followed to the letter. It's my civic duty. I print out the building schematics and lease information. Besides, wouldn't want any safety violations putting tenants at risk. That evening, I follow Vanessa's car from a distance. The tracker Mike helped me install that afternoon makes it easy. Just a small magnetic device tucked under her rear bumper. Completely legal since the car is registered in my name. She drives straight to Adrian's studio, just as I expected. I park across the street and watch through the large windows as they embrace. Even from this distance, I can see the passion in their body language, the way they touch each other like they can't get enough. It should hurt more than it does. Instead, I feel oddly detached, like I'm conducting a scientific observation. Subject A is betraying Subject B with Subject C. Variables include time, location, and emotional investment. Hypothesis: Subject B's calculated response will yield superior results to an emotional reaction. I take photos with my phone's zoom lens, not for any legal purpose, but because documentation is important in any project. Then I drive home and wait. Vanessa returns at 11:30, slipping into bed beside me with the practiced stealth of someone who's done this many times before. "How was the editing session?" I ask in the darkness. "Exhausting, but we got some great shots." She curls up on her side, facing away from me. "Adrian really pushed for perfection." "I'm sure he did." If she hears the double meaning, she doesn't respond. Within minutes, her breathing evens out into sleep. I lie awake staring at the ceiling, running calculations in my head. Force equals mass times acceleration. The greater the mass of deception, the more dramatic the acceleration needed to achieve maximum impact. By morning, I have my timeline mapped out. Phase 1 starts today. I wake up before Vanessa and check my phone. 3 new messages from Adrian to her device, which I can now monitor thanks to the cloud backup access I've always had. The messages are sickeningly romantic, talking about their future together and how Daniel will never understand what we have. He's right about one thing. I don't understand it. I don't understand how someone can lie so easily, how they can share a bed with one person while planning a life with another. But I don't need to understand it to respond to it. Vanessa emerges from the shower, wrapped in a towel, humming something under her breath. She seems lighter lately, more energetic. Happiness looks good on her, even if it's built on betrayal. I might be late again tonight, she says, selecting an outfit from her walk-in closet. We're shooting the Blackstone campaign today, and you know how perfectionist Adrian can be. Actually, I don't know. I've never met him. I watch her face in the mirror as she applies makeup. Maybe we should have him over for dinner sometime. I'd like to meet this artistic genius you're always talking about. Her hand freezes for just a moment, mascara wand halfway to her lashes. Oh, he's very busy. Probably wouldn't be interested in domestic stuff. Right. Too creative for suburbia. I finish my coffee and grab my keys. Have a great day, honey. I hope you get exactly what you're looking for. At the office, Lila calls with an update. I've moved 60% of your liquid assets into protected accounts. The house is secure. Maine law is clear about premarital property. Her car loan is interesting, though. Since you're the primary on the financing, you could technically repossess it at any time. Not yet. I don't want to tip my hand too early. I'm reviewing the building inspection records for Adrian's studio. What about her employment situation? That's where things get complicated. Her firm, Prestige Marketing, has contracts with 3 companies that regularly hire your engineering firm. There could definitely be conflict of interest issues, especially if she's been using her position to influence those contracts. Has she? I'm still investigating, but the timing is suspicious. 2 of those contracts were renewed right around the time she started working there, and the terms were unusually favorable for Prestige. I lean back in my chair, processing this information. So, she might have been using our marriage as a business advantage while simultaneously planning to end it. That's exactly what it looks like. And if I can prove it, her firm could face serious legal consequences. They take ethics violations very seriously in the luxury brand world. After hanging up with Lila, I call the building management company for Adrian's studio. I've worked with them before on various projects, so when I express concern about potential code violations in one of their properties, they listen. I was driving by the Hartwell building yesterday and noticed some concerning activity, I tell the property manager, a woman named Sandra who remembers me from previous projects. Looked like they might be exceeding occupancy limits for commercial photography shoots. You know how strict the fire department is about that stuff? Which unit are you talking about? Studio 4B. I'd hate to see anyone get in trouble, but safety has to come first. Sandra promises to send an inspector by within the week. It's a small move, but in chess, sometimes the smallest pieces make the biggest difference. That afternoon, I decide to take a more direct approach. I drive to Adrian's studio during what I know is his lunch break and introduce myself. The Hartwell building is exactly the kind of trendy converted warehouse that attracts creative types with more style than substance. Adrian's studio occupies the 4th floor, with floor-to-ceiling windows and polished concrete floors. I find him setting up equipment for an afternoon shoot, wearing the uniform of the artistically pretentious black jeans, vintage band t-shirt, and boots that probably cost more than most people's rent. Adrian Brooks? I extend my hand with my most genuine smile. I'm Daniel Cooper, Vanessa's husband. The color drains from his face, but to his credit, he recovers quickly. Oh, hey, Vanessa's mentioned you. Nice to finally meet you. Likewise, I've heard so much about your work. She says you're incredibly talented. I look around the studio, taking in the expensive equipment, the carefully arranged lighting setups. This is quite a setup you have here. Thanks. I've been building it for about 3 years now. He's trying to act casual, but I can see the tension in his shoulders, the way his eyes keep darting toward the door. Must be expensive maintaining a space like this in the old port. What's rent run on a place like this? 4,000? 5? Something like that. He's definitely uncomfortable now, probably wondering if this is some kind of confrontation. Well, I don't want to keep you from your work, just wanted to put a face to the name, you know? Vanessa speaks so highly of you. I pause at the door, as if something just occurred to me. Oh, and Adrian, you might want to double-check your building codes. I noticed some potential safety issues on my way up. Wouldn't want anything to interfere with your business. I leave him standing there, confusion and worry written across his face. Sometimes the most effective intimidation is the kind that leaves people guessing. That evening, I'm in my basement workshop when Vanessa comes home. She finds me there an hour later, working on a custom bookshelf for our living room. "You're home early," I observe, not looking up from my measurements. The shoot wrapped faster than expected. She perches on my workbench watching me work. "You know, Adrian mentioned something strange today. He said you stopped by his studio." I continue marking my cuts, keeping my voice neutral. "I was in the neighborhood, thought I'd introduce myself. Seemed rude not to, considering how much time you two spend together." "What did you think of him?" Now I do look up, meeting her eyes directly. Exactly what I expected. Very artistic, the kind of guy who probably thinks regular people like me don't understand his vision. "Daniel, he's not like that. He's actually very down to earth." "I'm sure he is, especially when he's lying down." The words slip out before I can stop them, but I keep my expression neutral, as if I'm talking about his sleeping habits. Vanessa's eyes narrow. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing. Just that creative types often do their best thinking horizontally. You know, lying on couches, staring at ceilings, waiting for inspiration to strike." I return to my measurements. "Must be nice having a job where you can be so flexible." She studies my face for a long moment, trying to read between the lines. "You've been acting strange lately, different." "Have I? I feel exactly the same. Maybe you're just noticing things you didn't pay attention to before." I set down my pencil and look at her directly. "People change, Vanessa. Sometimes they grow apart. Sometimes they discover they want different things." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that marriage is like any other structure. It's only as strong as its foundation, and if that foundation develops cracks..." I shrug. "Well, eventually the whole thing comes down." She slides off the workbench, suddenly looking uncertain. "Daniel, if there's something you want to talk about..." "Is there something you want to talk about?" I counter. "Because I'm here. I'm always here. The question is whether you want to be..." For a moment, I think she might confess everything. Her mouth opens and I can see the words forming. But then her phone buzzes with a text and the moment passes. "I should get dinner started," she says instead, heading back upstairs. I listen to her footsteps on the stairs, then check my own phone. A text from Mike. "Building inspector is scheduled for tomorrow at 2 p.m. Sandra says thanks for the heads up. Phase 1 is proceeding exactly as planned." The next morning brings the first crack in Vanessa's carefully constructed facade. I'm in the kitchen making coffee when she comes downstairs, phone pressed to her ear and panic in her voice. "What do you mean there's a problem with the contract?" She notices me listening and moves toward the living room, but I can still hear every word. "No, I specifically told you the Meridian renewal was locked in. Well, find out what changed." She ends the call and returns to the kitchen, trying to compose herself. "Everything okay?" I ask, though I already know the answer. "Just work stuff. Some confusion about a contract renewal." She pours coffee with shaking hands. "Nothing I can't handle." What she doesn't know is that I spent yesterday afternoon having a very interesting conversation with James Morrison, the CEO of Meridian Watches. We've worked together on several projects over the years. My firm designed the structural systems for their new headquarters. When I casually mentioned that I'd heard some concerning rumors about conflicts of interest in their marketing partnerships, James took it very seriously. "You know how important reputation is in the luxury market," he told me. "We can't afford even the appearance of impropriety." By the time Vanessa leaves for work, I can see the stress lines around her eyes. She's starting to realize that her carefully balanced world might not be as stable as she thought. At noon, I drive to the Hartwell building and park across the street. At exactly 2 o'clock, I watch a city inspector enter the building. 20 minutes later, Adrian comes storming out onto the sidewalk, phone pressed to his ear. "This is BS, Sandra!" he's shouting. "I've been here 3 years without a single violation, and now suddenly I'm exceeding occupancy limits? Who complained?" I can't hear Sandra's response, but I can see Adrian's face getting redder. He paces back and forth on the sidewalk, gesturing wildly. "A concerned citizen? What the heck does that mean?" More pacing. "Fine, but I have a shoot scheduled for tomorrow that I cannot reschedule. These are major clients, Sandra. If I have to cancel..." The call ends abruptly. Adrian stares at his phone for a moment, then kicks a trash can so hard it tips over. Very artistic, very creative, very satisfying to watch. That evening, Vanessa comes home looking like she's been through a war. Her usually perfect hair is disheveled, her makeup smudged. She drops her purse by the door and slumps onto the couch. "Rough day?" I ask, settling beside her with 2 glasses of wine. "The worst. 3 different clients are suddenly questioning their contracts. Adrian's studio got hit with some ridiculous building violation, and my boss is asking questions about conflict of interest policies." She takes a large gulp of wine. It's like everything's falling apart at once. "That's terrible. What kind of building violation? Occupancy limits or something? They're saying he can't have more than 6 people in the studio at once, which makes group shoots almost impossible." She rubs her temples. "He thinks someone reported him out of spite." "Who would do something like that?" "Could be anyone. You know how competitive the photography world is. Probably some jealous rival trying to sabotage his business." I nod sympathetically while mentally noting that Adrian's paranoia is exactly where I want it. People make mistakes when they're looking over their shoulders. What about the contract issues? That sounds more serious. Vanessa's face tightens. Some B's about ethical guidelines and potential conflicts of interest. Like anyone in this industry doesn't have overlapping relationships. It's how business works. But there aren't any actual conflicts, right? I mean, your firm wouldn't risk their reputation over something like that. She doesn't answer immediately, which tells me everything I need to know. "Vanessa? It's complicated, Daniel. The luxury brand world is all about relationships and connections. Sometimes the lines get a little blurry. How blurry are we talking?" She stands up abruptly, wineglass in hand. "I don't want to talk about work anymore. This whole day has been a nightmare, and I just want to forget about it. But I'm not ready to let it go. If there's a real problem, maybe I can help. I know some of those CEOs personally. James Morrison from Meridian, Patricia Chen from Blackstone. You know James Morrison?" The surprise in her voice confirms my suspicion. "We've worked together for years. Good guy, very ethical, very by the book. Why? No reason, just didn't realize you moved in those circles. There's a lot you don't realize about me lately." I stand up and move closer to her. "For instance, did you realize that I know exactly what time you got home every night this week? Or that your car's GPS shows trips to places you never mentioned? Or that Adrian Brooks has been texting my wife about their future together?" The wineglass slips from her hand and shatters on the hardwood floor. Red wine spreads across the boards like blood. "Daniel, I can explain." "Can you? Because I'd love to hear the explanation for last night was perfect. Next time, my place." I pull out my phone and show her the screenshot. "Or maybe you can explain why you've been lying to me for months while using our marriage to advance your career." She stares at the phone, then at me, her face cycling through shock, fear, and finally defiance. "You went through my phone? Your phone? The one on the family plan that I pay for? The one you left unlocked on our kitchen counter?" I shake my head. "That's your response? Not 'I'm sorry' or 'I can explain,' but anger that you got caught?" "It's not what you think." "It's exactly what I think. You're having an affair with Adrian Brooks, you've been lying to me about it, and you've been using your position at Prestige to steer contracts toward companies that hire my firm, probably to make yourself look more valuable to your bosses." The color drains from her face. "How did you figure it out? I'm an engineer, Vanessa. I solve problems for a living, and you've become a very interesting problem to solve." She sinks back onto the couch, all the fight going out of her. "What do you want?" "I want the truth, all of it. How long has this been going on?" 6 months. Her voice is barely a whisper. "And you were planning to leave me for him?" A pause. Then, "I don't know. Maybe I was confused." "Were you confused when you renewed those contracts? Were you confused when you used information from my business dinners to help Prestige land bigger clients?" It wasn't like that." "Then what was it like? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you've been playing both sides. Keeping me around for financial security and business connections while planning your exit strategy with the artist." Tears start flowing down her cheeks. But I feel nothing. No sympathy, no urge to comfort her, just cold, analytical clarity. "I never meant for it to happen," she whispers. "Adrian and I just connected on a level that you and I never did. He understands my dreams, my ambitions." "Your ambitions? You mean like using your husband's professional relationships to boost your own career while sleeping with your photographer?" "It wasn't calculated like that, wasn't it? Because the timeline is pretty interesting, Vanessa. You started at Prestige 18 months ago. The Meridian contract renewal happened 12 months ago, right after you and I had dinner with James Morrison. The Blackstone deal came through 6 months ago, a week after Patricia Chen was at our house for that barbecue. And your affair with Adrian started right around the same time you landed the biggest commission of your career. She's crying harder now, mascara streaming down her cheeks. Please, Daniel, I know I made mistakes, but we can work through this. I'll end things with Adrian. We can go to counseling. End things with Adrian? I laugh, but there's no humor in it. Vanessa, I don't think you understand what's happening here. This isn't a marriage crisis. This is a complete structural failure. And when a building's foundation is compromised, you don't renovate, you demolish and start over. What does that mean? It means I've already started the demolition process. Those contract reviews, those building violations, the sudden scrutiny of your firm's ethical practices, that's not coincidence, sweetheart. That's controlled demolition. The realization hits her like a physical blow. You did this. You're sabotaging my career. I'm exposing the truth. There's a difference. I step over the broken glass and spilled wine. You wanted excitement, Vanessa? Drama? Congratulations. You're about to get more than you bargained for. You can't do this to me. I'm not doing anything to you. I'm simply ensuring that your choices have consequences. You chose to have an affair. You chose to lie. You chose to use our marriage as a business tool while planning to discard it. I'm just making sure everyone involved understands the full scope of those choices. She stands up, anger replacing tears. I'll fight you on this. I'll tell everyone what you're doing. Tell them what? That I discovered my wife's affair and reported potential ethics violations to the appropriate authorities? That I expressed safety concerns about a building to its management company? Please, go ahead. I'm sure that conversation will go exactly how you imagine. You bastard! No, Vanessa. I'm an engineer, and you just learned the difference between the two. I head toward the stairs, leaving her standing in the wreckage of wine and broken glass. Where are you going? To pack your things. You'll be staying somewhere else tonight. I suggest Adrian's place, assuming he still has it after tomorrow's follow-up inspection. You can't kick me out of my own house. I turn back to face her one last time. Actually, I can. This house is in my name, purchased before our marriage with my money. Legally, you're a guest who's overstayed her welcome. But don't worry, you'll be hearing from my attorney soon with all the details. As I climb the stairs, I can hear her making frantic phone calls behind me. First to Adrian, then to what sounds like a lawyer. Good. Let her scramble. Let her panic. Let her finally understand what it feels like when your carefully constructed world starts crumbling around you. Phase 2 is complete. Time to initiate the final sequence. I wake up alone for the first time in 7 years, and it feels like freedom. Vanessa left sometime after midnight. I heard her car start and drive away while I was lying in bed, staring at the ceiling and planning my next moves. My phone shows 6 missed calls from her and a string of increasingly desperate text messages. The last one, sent at 2:47 a.m., reads, "Please call me. We need to talk about this like adults." Adults. That's rich, coming from someone who's been sneaking around like a teenager for 6 months. I delete the messages without reading the rest and call Lila. It's 7 a.m., Daniel. This better be good news. She knows. Had the confrontation last night. She's out of the house. How did she take it? About as well as you'd expect. Tears, anger, threats to fight me legally, the usual. I'm making coffee in my quiet kitchen, enjoying the peace. What's our timeline looking like? I can have divorce papers ready by this afternoon. Maine's got a no-fault system, but given the adultery and potential financial impropriety, we can push for a very favorable settlement. Papers rustle on her end of the line. I also made some calls yesterday about her firm's contract practices. Turns out Prestige Marketing is already under scrutiny from the Better Business Bureau for some questionable client relationships. Meaning your wife picked the wrong time to have an ethics crisis. Her bosses are going to distance themselves from any potential scandal as fast as possible. After hanging up with Lila, I drive to work with a clear head and a specific purpose. Today is about applying pressure at exactly the right points to achieve maximum structural damage. My first call is to Patricia Chen at Blackstone Jewelry. We've worked together on 3 major projects, and she trusts my judgment. Daniel, good to hear from you. How's the family? That's actually why I'm calling, Patricia. I've discovered some concerning information about potential conflicts of interest that might affect your current marketing contracts. I explain the situation in careful, professional terms. No emotional language, just facts about overlapping relationships and potential ethical violations. Patricia listens without interrupting. "This is very serious," she says finally. "Blackstone's reputation is built on integrity. We can't afford even the appearance of impropriety." "I understand completely. I just thought you should be aware before it becomes a bigger issue." "I appreciate the heads up. I'll be making some calls this morning." My second call is to Sandra at the building management company. "Daniel, perfect timing. We had another inspection at the Hartwell building yesterday, and I'm afraid Mr. Brooks is going to need to make some significant changes to maintain his lease." "What kind of changes?" "Fire code compliance mostly. His current setup exceeds safe occupancy limits for his space classification. He'll need to either reduce his equipment footprint by about 40% or upgrade to a larger unit." She pauses. "Unfortunately, we don't have any larger units available, and the waiting list for similar spaces downtown is about 18 months. "That's unfortunate. He seemed like a nice enough guy when I met him." "You know Mr. Brooks? My wife works with him professionally. Small world, right?" By 10 a.m., my phone is ringing with a call from an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail, then listen to Adrian Brooks' increasingly frantic message. "This is Adrian. I don't know what game you're playing, but you need to stop. My business is being destroyed by these BS violations, and I know you're behind it. Call me back or I'm coming to find you." Interesting. Threatening behavior on a recorded line. I save the message and forward it to Lila with a note. Exhibit A for the restraining order. At lunch, I drive to the Copper Bucket, a dive bar near the waterfront that serves decent burgers and minds its own business. I'm halfway through a beer when Adrian storms in, scanning the room until he spots me. He slides into the booth across from me, face flushed with anger and desperation. "You son of a witch, you're destroying my life. I'm eating lunch." I take another bite of my burger. "You want to join me, or are you just here to make a scene?" "Don't play dumb. The building violations, the contract reviews, turning Vanessa's clients against her. I know it's all you." "That's quite a conspiracy theory. You think I have that much influence over building inspectors and corporate executives?" I signal the bartender for another beer. "Maybe your problems are just, what do you artistic types call it? Bad karma?" "This isn't a joke. I'm losing everything." "Are you? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're just facing the consequences of your choices." I lean forward, meeting his eyes directly. "You chose to sleep with another man's wife. You chose to help her violate professional ethics. You chose to build a business model that apparently can't survive basic code enforcement. Those were your decisions, Adrian. Own them." "Vanessa loves me. We're going to be together." "Is that what she told you?" "Because last night she was begging me to take her back, promising to end things with you if I'd just give her another chance." It's not entirely true, but the doubt that flickers across his face tells me it's close enough. "You're lying." "Am I? When's the last time she answered your calls? Because I'm betting it's been radio silence since her world started falling apart yesterday." He pulls out his phone and checks it compulsively. The gesture tells me everything. She hasn't been responding to him either. She's just scared. Once this blows over... "Adrian, let me explain something to you about structural engineering. When a building starts to collapse, you don't run toward it hoping to prop it up. You get as far away as possible and let gravity do its work." I finish my beer and stand up. Vanessa's career is collapsing. Her marriage is over. Her reputation in this industry is finished. You can choose to go down with her, or you can cut your losses and find a new city to play artist in. I'm not going anywhere. That's your choice, but I should mention that threatening voicemails are considered harassment in Maine. Keep calling me, and you'll be dealing with more than just building code violations. I leave him sitting in the booth, staring at his phone, and probably wondering how his romantic adventure turned into a disaster movie. That afternoon, Lila calls with updates. Blackstone terminated their contract with Prestige this morning. Meridian is conducting a full review of their relationship with the firm. And here's the best part. Vanessa's boss called her in for a meeting at 4 o'clock today. Damage control? More like damage assessment. From what I'm hearing, Prestige is going to offer her up as a scapegoat to protect their other client relationships. She'll be lucky if she's not facing a lawsuit for breach of fiduciary duty. And Adrian? His lease is being terminated at the end of the month. Apparently, the building management company decided he's too much of a liability. Something about repeated violations and potential safety issues. I lean back in my office chair, watching the late afternoon sun stream through my windows. Everything is proceeding exactly according to plan. What about the divorce papers? Ready for your signature. I'm recommending we offer her a minimal settlement. She keeps her personal belongings and her car. You keep everything else. Given the circumstances, she'll be lucky to get that much. And if she fights it, then we go to court and air all of this publicly. Her affair, the ethics violations, the potential fraud charges. Trust me, she won't fight it. At 5:30, my phone rings. Vanessa's name appears on the screen. I let it ring 4 times before answering. Hello, Vanessa. Daniel, please, I need to see you. Everything is falling apart. Her voice is raw, desperate. I heard about your meeting today. How did that go? They fired me. They actually fired me for conduct detrimental to the firm's reputation. 24 hours ago, I was their top performer, and now I'm a liability. That's unfortunate. Unfortunate, Daniel, my career is over. No one in this industry will touch me now, and Adrian won't even return my calls. Maybe he's busy looking for a new studio. I heard his lease got terminated. A long pause. Then, you did this. All of it. I exposed the truth. There's a difference. Please, I know I hurt you, but this is destroying my entire life. Can't we find some way to work this out? Actually, yes. My attorney will be serving you with divorce papers tomorrow morning. Sign them, and this ends quietly. Fight them, and everything becomes public record. Divorce papers? Did you think we were going to couples counseling? Vanessa, you cheated on me for 6 months while using our marriage to commit what amounts to professional fraud. This marriage is over. The only question is whether it ends quietly or with maximum public humiliation. I won't sign them. That's your choice. But consider this. Right now, you're just a disgraced marketing executive who made some poor personal choices. Fight me in court, and you become the woman who destroyed her marriage and her career for a photographer who's about to skip town. Which version of that story do you think plays better in the local media? Another long pause. When she speaks again, her voice is barely a whisper. What happened to you? You used to be kind, compassionate. I used to trust my wife. Things change. I look out my office window at the city below, thinking about how different everything looks when you know where the fault lines are. You wanted excitement, Vanessa. You wanted drama and passion and something more than our boring suburban life. Congratulations. You got exactly what you asked for. Daniel, goodbye, Vanessa. Enjoy your new life. I hang up and turn off my phone. Tomorrow's going to be a very interesting day. The divorce papers are served at 9 a.m. sharp, while Vanessa is having coffee at a downtown cafe with Adrian. I know this because I'm sitting 3 tables away, watching the process server approach their table with a manila envelope and a professional smile. Vanessa's face goes through a remarkable transformation as she reads the documents. Confusion, shock, and finally a kind of defeated acceptance. Adrian tries to read over her shoulder, but she pulls the papers away, shaking her head. Their conversation becomes heated. I can't hear the words, but the body language is clear. He's pushing for something, she's resisting, and both of them are starting to realize that their romantic adventure has turned into a financial and professional disaster. Adrian storms out first, leaving Vanessa sitting alone with her coffee and her divorce papers. She looks smaller somehow, diminished. For a moment, I almost feel sorry for her. Then I remember the months of lies, the calculated betrayal, and the feeling passes. My phone buzzes with a text from Mike. Package delivered, phase 3 complete. I finish my own coffee and head to the office, where Lila is waiting with updates. She has 72 hours to respond to the papers. Her attorney called this morning trying to negotiate, but there's really nothing to negotiate. She has no leverage. What about Adrian? Interesting development there. Turns out Mr. Brooks has been having some financial difficulties for months. His equipment is all leased, his apartment rent is 3 months behind, and he's been using client deposits to cover operating expenses. Lila grins. In other words, your wife picked a real winner. So he's broke? Worse than broke. He's facing potential fraud charges if any of his clients decide to press the issue. My guess is he'll be leaving town soon, probably in the middle of the night. I spend the morning handling actual work, reviewing structural plans, meeting with clients, doing the job I've been doing successfully for 15 years, while my wife was playing house with a con artist photographer. It feels good to focus on problems with clear solutions, projects that follow predictable engineering principles. At lunch, Mike stops by my office with sandwiches and gossip. Heard from Sandra this morning. Brooks cleaned out his studio last night, left the keys with security and disappeared. Apparently, he owed 2 months' rent, and left behind about $20,000 worth of leased equipment. What about his clients? That's the best part. 3 different couples are looking for him about wedding deposits that mysteriously vanished. One of them hired a private investigator. I unwrapped my sandwich, considering this information. So Vanessa's knight in shining armor turned out to be a fraud who abandoned her the moment things got difficult. Pretty much. And here's the kicker word is getting around the creative community that he was running multiple scams, using other photographers' work in his portfolio, promising shoots he couldn't deliver, the whole 9 yards. Your wife didn't just pick a cheater, she picked an incompetent cheater. That afternoon, I get a call from an unexpected source, James Morrison, from Meridian Watches. Daniel, I wanted to thank you for bringing those contract issues to my attention. Our internal review uncovered some very concerning practices. I'm glad I could help. It turns out your wife's firm was inflating their invoices by routing payments through a subsidiary company that she had a financial interest in. We're talking about potential fraud charges. This is news to me. I knew about the ethics violations, but actual financial fraud is a whole different level of legal trouble. That's significant. It gets worse. The subsidiary was co-owned with Adrian Brooks, who apparently used his share of the inflated payments to cover personal debts. The FBI's Financial Crimes Unit is getting involved. I sit down heavily in my office chair. I wanted revenge, not federal criminal charges. James, I had no idea it went that deep. Of course not. You were as much a victim as we were, but I thought you should know your wife is going to be facing some very serious legal consequences. After hanging up, I call Lila immediately. We have a problem. The fraud goes deeper than we thought. Federal charges are likely. How deep? I explain what James told me about the subsidiary company and the inflated invoices. Lila whistles low. That changes everything. If the FBI gets involved, she's looking at potential prison time, not just civil penalties. I never wanted her to go to prison. I just wanted her to face consequences for what she did to our marriage. Daniel, you exposed the truth about her affair and her ethics violations. You didn't create the financial fraud. She did that all on her own, probably with Adrian's encouragement. This is what happens when people think they're smarter than the system. That evening, I'm in my basement workshop trying to focus on a simple woodworking project when the doorbell rings. I consider ignoring it, but the ringing becomes persistent, desperate. Vanessa stands on my doorstep looking like she hasn't slept in days. Her usually perfect hair is unwashed, her clothes wrinkled. She's holding the divorce papers in one hand and what looks like a legal document in the other. I signed them, she says without preamble. The divorce papers, I signed them. Good, that was the smart choice. But we need to talk. There are things you don't understand. Against my better judgment, I let her in. She sits on the couch where we used to watch movies together, looking around the living room like she's seeing it for the first time. The FBI came to see me today, she says finally. I heard. You heard from who? James Morrison called. Apparently, your little side business with Adrian was more elaborate than I realized. She starts crying again. But these aren't the manipulative tears from before. These are the tears of someone who's finally grasped the full scope of their situation. I never meant for it to go that far. Adrian convinced me it was just creative accounting, that everyone in the industry did things like that. So you committed federal fraud because your boyfriend told you it was normal? I was in love. I wasn't thinking clearly. No, Vanessa, you were thinking very clearly. You were thinking about money and excitement and a lifestyle you couldn't afford on legitimate income. Adrian didn't force you to create fake invoices. He just gave you permission to do what you already wanted to do. She looks up at me with red, swollen eyes. What happens now? Now you deal with the consequences. You'll probably need a criminal attorney, not just a divorce lawyer. You'll likely face charges for fraud, money laundering, maybe tax evasion. Adrian's gone. Word is he left the state yesterday, so you'll be facing this alone. He's gone. The shock in her voice would be funny if the situation weren't so serious. Did you really think he was going to stick around for federal charges? Vanessa, the man was a con artist. He used you to legitimize his scams, and the moment it got risky, he disappeared. You were never his partner. You were his mark. She doubles over like I punched her in the stomach. Oh, God. Oh, God, what have I done? You chose excitement over stability. You chose lies over truth. You chose a fantasy over reality. I sit down across from her, maintaining distance. The question now is whether you're going to take responsibility for those choices or keep pretending you're a victim. I am A victim. Adrian manipulated me. Adrian gave you what you wanted: drama, passion, and easy money. You're not a victim, Vanessa. You're an accomplice who got abandoned by her co-conspirator. She sits in silence for several minutes, processing the full weight of her situation. When she speaks again, her voice is different, smaller, more genuine. I know you'll never forgive me, but I need you to know that I did love you. Maybe not the way you deserved, but I did love you. I believe you. But love isn't enough when it comes with lies, betrayal, and federal crimes. What will you tell people about why we got divorced? The truth. That we grew apart and wanted different things. I won't volunteer the details about Adrian or the fraud charges. But I won't lie to protect you either. She nods, accepting this. That's more than I deserve. Yes, it is. She stands up, smoothing her wrinkled clothes. I should go. I have a meeting with a criminal attorney tomorrow morning. Vanessa? She turns back at the door. For what it's worth, I hope you get through this okay. I hope you learn from it and build something better on the other side. Thank you. That means more than you know. After she leaves, I pour myself a whiskey and sit on my back patio, looking out over the city lights. 6 months ago, I was a married man with a successful career and what I thought was a stable life. Tonight, I'm divorced, my ex-wife is facing federal charges, and her lover has fled the state. I should feel victorious. I should feel vindicated. Instead, I mostly feel tired. My phone buzzes with a text from Lila. Papers filed. Divorce will be final in 30 days. You're a free man. A free man. The phrase should sound liberating, but mostly it just sounds lonely. But as I sit there in the quiet evening air, I realize that lonely is better than living a lie. Solitude is better than betrayal. And starting over at 40 is better than staying in a marriage built on deception. Tomorrow, I'll wake up in my own house, go to my own job, and live my own life without wondering what secrets are hiding behind my wife's smile. I'll build new relationships based on honesty instead of convenience. I'll create a life that doesn't require lies to sustain it. Vanessa wanted excitement and got federal charges. Adrian wanted easy money and became a fugitive. They both chose the thrilling path and discovered that some thrills come with devastating consequences. I chose the methodical path, careful planning, strategic thinking, and letting their own actions create their downfall. It wasn't dramatic or passionate, but it was effective. And unlike their excitement, my approach has left me with a clear conscience and a stable future. The city lights twinkle below me like stars, each one representing someone else's life, someone else's choices, someone else's consequences. Tomorrow I'll start building something new from the rubble of what came before. And this time, I'll build it to last.